So, welcome to the channel. If you've not seen us before, I am Kenneth. This is my 2021 JL Rubicon diesel. Looks very similar to Roy's, and if you've seen his elsewhere on the channel. Kind of a backstory here where he bought his and I just could not bear to not have a diesel after he bought his. So this is mine. So very similar. A lot of ways it's pretty much stock. I did put a new set of tires and wheels on it after I bought it. It's sitting on 35s now with the stock suspension. We're going to do a bit of a makeover on it this weekend with a 2.5-inch lift, some rock rails, some other upgrades to kind of make it a little bit more. This replaced my JK that also had a 2.5-inch lift on it, and over time much of that lift had evolved towards MetalCloak pieces. Various other pieces had worn out, sagged, or whatever, and the replacements had been MetalCloak. So for this Jeep, as I'm starting over, I opted for the MetalCloak 2.5-inch Game Changer lift. One of the nice things about that setup is that the 2.5-inch, 3.5-inch, 4.5-inch lifts are all the same parts except for the springs. So if I decide ultimately that I want to go higher, all I have to do is replace the springs, reset the lengths on the arms, and we're good to go. We've got a big pile of parts, most of them from MetalCloak. Going to make some upgrades. We've got Fox shock absorbers. We've got a bolt kit from Grim Off-Road. We've got a Synergy steering box and track bar brace. Then from MetalCloak, we've got a heavy-duty drag link, a heavy-duty tie rod. We've got the rear springs, front and rear track bars. We've got a new front drive shaft. We've got a full 8 arms, adjustable control arms, skid plate for the rear differential. We've got a billet clamp for the steering stabilizer, the front axle disconnect skid plate, front and rear differential covers. This is a set of rock hard 4x4 sliders. So inside this we have a box that says it is a sway bar drop bracket for the rear. We have an outboard shock kit for the front lower. We have a bump stop kit for the front. We have a set of coil correction pads for the JL on the front. This is a known issue that causes the springs to bow in funny directions. That corrects that. We have bump stop kit for the rear. We have a leveling spring pad for the diesel. So this is with the JL diesel a little bit heavier, so this is some additional spacer pads to help level it back out. We have another stabilizer bracket, so that actually makes 2, so I probably got an extra one of those. I have a sway bar link kit with nuts, 12.25 inch. I think that's my front or rear sway bar end links. An inventory list of everything that we're supposed to have. Set of lower control arm skid plates. These are a weld-on variety to help avoid damage to your lower control arms. This is a JL steering stabilizer relocation bracket to relocate the steering stabilizer up out of the way of the suspension. And that empties the first box. Actually, so the deal is, these are in there with Loctite.
Yep.
And so part of what we're having to do is break the Loctite.
Now you have to reuse these, right?
Those I have to reuse.
Now, we also want to make sure that we hold on to this. Because
Catch.
this is the last bolt. Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it'll drop right on your head. That's a bad thing.
When your head is bad, there are things that are worse. Although this would brain you. As part of the MetalCloak lift, they highly recommend putting a new drive shaft in the front of the vehicle. And that is really all about this Rosetta joint here that lives up against the transfer case. The concern that they have is that as your vehicle articulates and the front suspension drops out, this can become a bind and move on. The other thing that happens is that these Rosetta joints have this rubber flange in here, rubber diaphragm in here, that as this gets stretched and old, this will crack and fail. Then you get dirt, grit, grime up into the Rosetta joint, and it fails. Makes noise, and eventually becomes non-functional. So, as part of the MetalCloak kit, we have a new drive shaft with a double cardan CV style joint and a new drive flange or new drive yoke for the transfer case. This is all about making sure that we have years of trouble-free service. So need to remove the yoke off of the transfer case. Just a puller to get a hold of it and pull it out. The instructions actually suggest tapping it out with a mallet, which is not entirely a bad idea, just not a lot of access up there with my skid plate in place. And I happen to have the correct tool. Or I'm foolish enough to think that I have the correct tool. Ordinarily, the skid plate wouldn't be here and you would have access into this cavity. Confirmed, I have access to the correct tool.
So one of the things I like to do when I'm putting a yoke in a transfer case or a transmission or anything like that, axle, is take a little bit of RTV and just enough to coat the inside of the splines, and that way when it's in, even sometimes the rubber gasket will leak. This helps ensure a leak-free installation.
So then they want you to take the O-ring from the other yoke, and we just pop that. We just pop that,
yeah, if you can,
into the cavity here at the end of this one. There we go. You have your trusty assistant check your instructions and say, what is the torque spec on this? And you have your other trusty assistant grab some blue Loctite or red Loctite
yeah,
for the pinion nut.
So according to the instructions, red Loctite on the nut and 160 foot-pounds. And yes, big Mongo. Yep.
So I have this special tool that is a holdback for these yokes. It just makes it much easier when you're dealing with having to apply torque to be able to put this on and hold back the yoke. Because we're going to need to do something for the breaker bar.
And I've got the breaker bar.
You've got the breaker bar.
We've got everything here. So, as much as you need. Is that going to be enough?
I think that's going to be enough.
Okay. Okay.
To support that.
There we go.
Okay. Unfortunately, this place that I like to stand here is about to become occupied.
Oh, let me grab the other part of the shaft. Hold on.
Yeah. Okay. So. Now I'm getting blue locked all over my hands. All right, and that might drip a little bit in your face.
Good thing I'm wearing glasses.
Yeah.
Put this on its softest setting.
Yeah, just to get them zipped in.
Yeah. Back it out, slide it out, rotate. Now push it through. Double check. At the conclusion of the install, grease the drive shaft. Make sure that replace any grease you squeezed out where it was pre-greased from the factory, and just generally make sure it's full.
Okay, so step one is to remove the sway bar end links. 18 millimeter and a ratcheting wrench makes life easier. I don't know if you can get in there, but you can see there's a you put a 6 millimeter Allen key in there to hold the bolt in place, and then try to move this around where you can actually get some movement. Oh, come on. Oh, and that's on there nice and tight.
Yeah, I needed a.
There it goes.
Yeah, the flag nuts, when they work, are great. Mm-hmm. When they don't work,
Annoying as hell.
Yeah.
normally that's about a flag having broken off.
Yeah. So, at the frame side of the upper control arms, there are heat shields that are bolted on to protect the rubber bushing, and I am in the process of fiddling with a ratcheting wrench on the top bolt that holds the heat shield on, and I get a very low amount of movement, and it's really hard to, I certainly can't see it, but I'm just zipping this nut off, or this bolt out, and it's about 3 times as long as it needs to be, so it's just going to be here doing this for a while.
Removing the bracket off of the brake line and just trying to open it up a little bit so we can slip the rubber hose here out.
You missed it.
I know I did.
Sorry. So, just using a wobble extension with a 21 millimeter socket to pull the track bar, the lower track bar bolt out, and it goes with this flag nut on the other end. So you can edit this out, right?
Oh, heck yes.
Cool. All right.
No, whatever you say is recorded for posterity.
You're recording my posterior?
Yeah.
This is in nice and tight, and it's easier to loosen the nut than it is the bolt.
Yeah.
So a little extra leverage, and it just...
Physics.
Physics is your friend. Let's see if I can come in from behind. Yep. There we go. Okay. And then, so can you just wiggle it around a little bit as I pull? There you go. Okay, pull it away. Take it out. Where's the bolts? Got it. It worked. That body does that offer any kind of glue to the connector in general? No. To get off? No. More than I can describe.
It is just about to come out.
No, I remember reading a lot of things about. Yeah, yeah.
Jeep up a little bit to let the springs fall out. Yep.
Right. Okay. So stand clear. This one's loose. Hey, stop. So we are removing the lower control arm. The instructions say to remove both sides. We are not going to do that. We're going to replace one control arm at a time, individually, and so we're removing the frame side of the control arm.
Huh. I don't remember those being on yours.
Yeah. Apparently there's a big washer. And when we did my lift on a similar 2021 diesel, it did not have this washer. But his was made a few months after mine, so this might be a new addition. Okay.
I'm mounting my new tires.
Okay. Now, this is where the alignment punch might come in handy. Although it's actually, the lower is actually, we set it at the same length as the factory one, so it actually is lining up pretty well. Hand me a bolt.
Now, how do you know where the adjustment on the...
It's in the instructions.
Okay.
Yeah, read the instructions. Okay.
Which I haven't
Although-
done.
Right.
No.
Up, down.
Yeah, the correct
It needs,
lengths of all of this stuff is...
might actually,
I'm hardly holding it off.
yeah. Okay, there it goes. It's just right at the edge of the hole,
Oh.
and so it doesn't quite, there it goes. All right, so one of the things we're doing that's not part of the instructions, the instructions say to reuse a lot of the old hardware, but you can see this is a fully threaded bolt, and what ends up happening is the sleeve on the bushing ends up digging in, and you get grooves in the bushing, and you flatten out the threads and everything. We are using a shouldered bolt that we got from Grimm Off-Road that provides us this portion right here is flat, and that's where the bushing will sit, and it will wear much better being a flat surface against a flat surface. And so they give us a nice kit. It's got every single bolt of the exact right size we need, the right thread pitch, and a complete set of instructions that give us all the torque values we need and everything. And so since we're replacing all of the control arms and track bars, it makes sense to put one of these kits in at the time, because it's no extra effort. Okay, stock control arm. It's thin wall tube, not very heavy. Noticeably heavier. It's straight. You can see that, you know, the ends are squished on this and everything, and this is just a straight tube. It's got a 1/4 inch plate end on it, and it's just, and that's maybe 3/16 or less. It's just a heavier, beefier, more substantial unit.
And it's adjustable.
We're removing the front
control arm.
upper control arm bolt. I got my hands full of other junk.
I can take some.
Take that. Leave it.
Oh.
Yeah. Put it back where it came from.
Okay. So now with this loose, we can wiggle things to get the other one. So we need to get this into alignment. We need to twist the axle slightly. So we've got a stand here that allows us to put a little bit of pressure on the axle and slowly
Push the bolt. Stop. Push harder. Maybe hit it with a smashy thing. There you go.
There we go.
So we've got the rear upper passenger side control arm bolt. On the turbo diesel, there is a heat shield right around the exhaust, and here's the catalytic converter right in the way. And so getting this out means that the bolt is probably going to come through to the and hit the heat shield. There's a couple of different ways to take it out. You can actually cut off the bolt in sections as you pull it out if you're not going to reuse the bolt, or you can undo the entire exhaust to get it out of the way, but that's a whole lot of extra work. On my Jeep, we just pushed it out and damaged the heat shield a little bit, and I'm okay with that, but some people won't be. We're gonna get it loose and figure out what Kenneth wants to do with his. One other note, there is not a lot of room in here, and again, ratcheting wrenches are your friend in a lot of these tight spaces. Leverage is your friend.
I can see marks on the wrench where you've done that before.
Mm-hmm. So here's my choice for removing a bolt with interference up here. We're just going to remove the end of the bolt. Well,
Need a slightly longer blade.
there we go.
And there came the rest of the bolt. And we're out.
It's a Goldicon.
There you go.
Yeah.
So here is your bolt. And so we're solving the problem of the long bolt by pushing the bolt in from the other side, and rather than trying to get a bolt back in through there. And here's your nut.
There is no nut provided with the Grimm off-road kit for this, so we're reusing one of the nuts that will be replaced elsewhere. That happens to be the right size and shape, and
Yeah, from the front lower shock bolt.
nothing special about a front lower shock bolt. It just happens to already have been removed from the vehicle. Okay, so now we get to do this one.
And the same thing.
So
Well, what's funny is this one wants to move in the opposite direction.
okay.
Well, no, that makes sense. They're symmetrical.
Yep.
All right.
So, yep.
So
Take the weight.
down.
Yep. Take the pressure off. It comes down.
Okay, and leaving everything loose because you don't tighten your suspension pieces until you get weight on it and it's at ride height.
So we need to open up the hole here in the center to allow for the installation of our bump stop extensions. That is a 1/2 inch all the way through. Taking a moment here to do just a little bit of rust prevention.
MetalCloak supplies these different coil spring isolators that just slide up and on. You take the factory isolators off. This is keyed so that the top of the spring sits in right in here, but it's not keyed, so we don't know what direction it needs to sit until we get the bottom on, and that one might specify the rotation of the coil or not. And these are the lower spring isolators, and this definitely is keyed and keyed, and it only goes on one way. And so the rotation of the spring, we'll put the bottom of the spring right here, and then we'll just spin this to match. And so I've got it installed with the spring sitting in the rotation it needs to be in for this to be there. And so I see that the spring ends here, and so I'm going to put the isolator in roughly the same position so that when we install it, it should be right. It's just too many pieces trying to occupy the same space. And so you get him poking me. Okay. Need to rope before you do that. Okay. Nope. Actually, that should be okay. And he's in. Nope. Okay. Yeah. That's that. And I can't quite see it or feel it. Oh, actually, it's right on.
Right where it needs to be.
Right where it needs to be.
Yeah.
I got lucky.
So then raise that up just a little bit.
Get it under tension.
That's what we did on the other side.
Yeah. Installing the bump stop extensions, they look very much like hockey pucks that have been drilled out. And so they slip through the coil very easily. And then we stack a washer. And here, take the nut. The nut.
The nice thing about this setup is you can adjust this at any time without having to disassemble the front suspension on your Jeep. It just becomes a, come in, take the nut out, take the bolt out, and then
Yeah, to remove
slip
bolts.
in or remove, however many additional discs necessary for your situation.
And they come, the whole kit comes with bolts in all the right lengths. So if you add or remove, you can just put in the other bolt and you're good. Or shorter bolt if you're taking out. We are doing the optional MetalCloak drag link and tie rod replacement. And so what we are doing at this point is we are just removing the factory pieces.
And they have the unfortunate side effect of not having enough tension to hold the bolt. So
But they are keyed like a regular nut at the top, so you can get on there with a wrench and a wrench, because what's happening is as we spin the nut, the ball joint itself is spinning as well.
it is a 10 millimeter.
Just this. Oh, just that.
Make sure you hang on to this when it comes off so it does not land on you, your fur baby, or somebody else you love.
Now we're going to take the tie rod out, and there we go. Eventually, these ball joints wear out when you have big tires and everything, and so
True.
you really do want to upgrade. Question is, when do you upgrade? You do it now, you do it later.
Right.
That's the whole crusade goes.
And there's a bit of the no time like the present.
Yeah. Got it. And we're just removing this bracket because it snakes around and winds around and actually gets in the way of the drill as we're trying to drill out the bracket for the shock mount.
What hole are we drilling that? Our size are we drilling that out to?
Half
3/8.
inch. Oh, 3/8.
Okay. Would you prefer just a 3/8 bit?
Ooh, already got it. That didn't take much.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. Okay, so we're putting the what are these? The shock relocation brackets on here. What they do is they take the stock shock orientation, and instead of sitting in here, it turns 90 degrees and bolts in up here. And the problem is there's about 6 different pieces that all have to fit together. And so there's a spacer and a there we go. Okay. And then it's a nice kit that has a whole bunch of hardware that all reinforces a nice, looks like 3/16 plate bracket here, and then come through underneath. Okay. All right. So looks like it's gonna be just a little bit easier to, if you tighten it the right way. Tighten this with the other bolt out of the way. Before I get too tight, make sure I don't misalign. Okay. Okay, that's in. So I'm not going to use the ratcheting wrench here. We've got not a lot of clearance, and as we cinch this down, it might get too tight, and I might not be able to get this out. And the joys of working on these projects is all the tools run away on you. So 19mm wrench and socket. There it goes. And this is actually going to tighten up quite a bit as we go, because there's a lot of gap there where the spacer needs to get cinched down. Okay, it's starting to get tight. Time to switch to the torque wrench. And what is it set to? 90 foot-pounds. Actually, can you come and hold the wrench? And there we are. I don't know if you heard, it actually added a little bit of weight to this.
Yeah. Need to set the length of the track bar. Needs to be just over 34 inches. That is still just a hair under. And that is
3/32.
34 and a 16th.
Yeah.
We're going to call that close enough for today's job.
Not that far.
Cut.
Washer and a bolt.
And
Hey Jay,
it's always
more gold.
Yeah, more gold.
yeah, and it's always better. Well, same on either end, but if you have an adjustable joint on one end and a rubber bushing on the other, it's always good to put the rubber bushing end in first, because that's harder to line up.
Yeah.
But these are rubber bushings on both ends, so it doesn't make that much difference.
And what's the
That's
torque
right.
spec
They
on
want
this
to
one?
use the flag nut on this end, don't they?
Yeah, which I think is just right there on the floor.
And the tie rod's probably gold too, right?
And drag link.
And the drag link.
Yeah.
we need to go
That way,
that way
a little bit.
a little bit to get this to line up. So there's two methods to this, guys.
Ratchet strap.
We can do a ratchet strap, we can drag it out over, or as we have learned in previous adventures, lift the axle makes this come this way.
Yes, true.
Yes. Watch that.
That's okay. It's not very important.
Today, it might be for tomorrow. Especially for Monday.
Watch the bar. Make sure we don't overcorrect.
Yeah, we're watching. Getting close. I'd say check it right there. Yeah, just a little bit further. Yeah, don't go any further.
Okay, so this is the problem that they're talking about,
Oh, okay.
where the housing won't drop in,
Okay.
which unfortunately means now we got a top.
But we're in positions.
We're in the position.
We're where we need to be.
So you got to grind something out or what?
Yeah, we got to open up this window on the bottom.
Well, that sucks when you got to grind.
Stand clear.
Yeah, you're on the back side.
Here. I got that. Stand clear. And a nice flag nut. Makes it easy to finish off. I think I got it backwards. So just installing these nice sway bar end links, pre-sized, that go with the lift. Other kits, they have universal ones that you have to cut to fit. These are nice, they just bolt right in. And uses the... Our nice bolt kit did not come with sway bar end link bolts, so we are reusing the factory hardware. And yes, be careful, don't cut your thumb when you're working. And then there we go. Yeah, it's almost level, but just not level enough.
You got to get mine.
So as part of the drag link tie rod kit, as well as the center axle disconnect skid plate, MetalCloak wants to relocate the steering stabilizer. And just this bracket, it bolts up on the track bar bracket. Use it to line up and punch one hole through here. So we just drilled the hole, put the bolt back in, and that's ready to go.